Friday forecast time, Indiana. Second road trip of the year for Nebraska, but a good one. First against a ranked team. Indiana Hoosiers, they are the surprise of not just the Big Ten, but perhaps the country.
You know, Indiana, they're 6-0 for the first time since 1967, and they were ranked in 2020 for a cup of coffee that season. They had a good year, but they really haven't been a ranked team since the early 90s in terms of where their program has been over all these years. So for Curt Cignetti to get them to this point, look, they've been favored in all 6 of their first games, and they've won all first 6 of their games. So they've got it done, and that's easier said than done now in a college football where wins don't come easy. But it's impressive with how dominant they've been. I think that's what jumps out about this team.
No question about it. And most Husker fans will say, well, who have they played? Who have they played? But you know what? They've gotten it done against the teams they played, and that's the bottom line. They're 6-0 and already bowl eligible.
Yeah, what are they supposed to do, lose the games?
Right,
I mean,
I know, yeah.
they went out and won, and look, Nebraska was favored in their first 6 games, and they lost one of them. So we know it's easier said than done. They lost one here as a, 8.5, 9.5 point favorite to Illinois. You know, Nebraska, this could have easily been a 6-0 versus 6-0 matchup, but it's on the big stage, big noon kickoff in Fox. By the way, 2 weeks in a row we'll see Nebraska on the road in that Fox big noon kickoff window.
Against ranked opponents, Indiana this week, and, of course, Ohio State a week from now. Let's talk about the bye week and what Nebraska got out of it. What did they get out of this?
Well, they got practices in on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The veteran players got a lot of rest. You know, some of those days the veteran players watched and helped, and then the younger guys go. But we know there are 2 new black shirts that were awarded. Sia Wright got a black shirt, as did punter Brian Buschini. I think that sets things up for Sia Wright and Tommy Hill, if he can come back from that foot injury, to be on the field together as cornerbacks. Nebraska has not had Tommy Hill playing since the Illinois game when his foot went out and he gave up that big touchdown. So if they can get Hill with Wright playing at a high level, that is a huge, huge piece of this matchup, especially if Nebraska's front can get a good pass rush.
Yeah, Matt Rule talking about maybe in hindsight, looking back at that Illinois game, had they known how serious that foot injury was with Tommy Hill, they definitely wouldn't have gone. But hindsight's 20/20. Hopefully Tommy Hill will be back on the field. Let's talk offensively, because a lot of the chatter on Monday with Matt Rule is centered around Dylan Raiola, and rightfully so.
Yeah, Dylan Raiola continues to impress as a young quarterback. Does not come off as a freshman, just with the way he sees the game, the way he looks at everything across the board and leads a football team. And now this is a big stretch. The league has had 6 games to study him. How will he respond to them? Because we've already seen, I thought Rutgers, Greg Schiano kind of turned things around on him a little bit, especially with the windy conditions. How will he play in another road environment? I thought he played really well at Purdue in his very first road game. How will he play now in another one where it's going to be a loud stadium, especially with Indiana's 6-0 start?
And one that the run game will be so important for Nebraska. Matt Rule talked about making those 12 to 15-yard runs into 20 to 25 to 30, 40, 50-yard runs.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of singles by Nebraska's running game. It'd be nice to even get a double here and there. I mean,
hit one into the gap.
I think I'm realistic to know that you're not going to get a lot of 40, 50. It's like the NFL. Yeah. You don't see a lot of 40, 50-yard runs in the NFL. The Big Ten's pretty close to that. I mean, if you can get those 10 to 25-yard runs, that is a huge run in a Big Ten football game, and we have not seen very many of those this year for whatever odd reason. And you also don't have the quarterback run game worked into this offense. I do think that over the years has helped Nebraska produce some freaky kind of big run plays. We haven't seen that as much this year from Nebraska.
Yeah, and obviously the numbers aren't going to be as good in the run game because that sack yardage is taken away from that bottom line. All right, what kind of bottom line are we looking at? We got 6 games left. Huskers 4 of the 6 on the road. This is a real opportunity these next 2 weeks to make a statement that Nebraska's for real.
Yeah, you look at this final stretch. We know this one's tough. We know Ohio State's tough. You got UCLA. You'd like to think Nebraska can win that game here. Wisconsin here. A couple weeks ago, that looked a lot more promising. Now the Badgers look like kind of the Badgers again, and they're playing more like a ranked type team. So that's going to be hard. Iowa, we know, is very good. And then USC, it's hard to know what Trojan team you're going to get because they probably should have beat Penn State last weekend. They blew a 14-point lead. Then on the other hand, they lost to Minnesota. So it is very unpredictable what would be kind of an acceptable finish for this Nebraska football team. Got to get to a bowl game first. That's the number one early goal but can they get to 7? Can they get to 8 wins? Matt Rule said, he goes, 8-4 right now is what 10-2 is in a lot of leagues, and I think he's right when you study what the Big Ten Conference has become.
Yeah, certainly more like mirroring the NFL, where every game's going down to the final possession. We'll see what happens Saturday when Nebraska, an underdog for the first time this season, plays at Indiana. 11 a.m. kick. It's on Fox.